Welcome to the We've Got a Problem podcast. This week I'm joined by Shruti Rustagi. She's the CFO of Canada Consumables for Amazon, a $4 billion business unit, and she's also a certified coach who focuses on helping her clients grow their leadership effectiveness, build resilience, and maximize life through mindset shifts. With more than 17 years of corporate experience, having lived and worked in 3 different countries and traveled to countless more, she's certainly got an informed take on how to maximize life, and I'm really excited to get a chance to chat. Shruti, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. So glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So, we talked offline about how you made several decisions that kind of changed your trajectory. And those are the kind of decisions that matter. What really stands out for you? What decisions brought you to this state of awesomeness that you currently enjoy?
Too many to point to a few.
No, I need all of them. List them all right now.
But yeah, in the spirit of maximizing our time here, let me focus on a few, which I would,
Sure.
which were really transformational, if I may. So the very first one was not my decision entirely. The very first one was when my husband decided to take a role. And I was like, yes, after 10 years of corporate life, I want to take a break. We moved to Dubai from India. That was a great decision. The greatness in that decision was just taking a break,
Yeah.
stepping outside and thinking back, what do I want to do with the rest so many years of my life? What have I done so far? So till that point, I had lived my life like this straight trajectory. And many of the people who come from families like mine, they might, associate with it. Good education, marry well, have kids, good career, earn money, and the life will just keep like going in a straight line. And I was like, hang on, okay, I've done all of that. Where's the fun? What's
Right.
going on?
Where's the fun in all of that? Yes. Okay.
Right. And then I was like, okay, things I want to do. I want to get trained as a coach because way back, like almost 3 to 4 years before at that point, I had a coach and who had a substantial difference to my life. He brought out things which I had kept inside of me for ages, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And that load got lifted and I suddenly was a different person. And I had then planned that whenever I take a break, I will go ahead and train myself as a coach, because if you can make that kind of a difference to someone's life, that's like amazing. And so I went and trained as a coach. And then I also started my travel blog. Dubai was uniquely placed. We traveled to a lot of countries, a lot of places. I started writing about my travels, posting about my travels. So that 1 year of not necessarily doing corporate work, but just doing things which brought me a different kind of fulfillment, I think was life changing.
Yes.
That was the first change or the shift. And that led me to another shift. About 10 months into it, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. I wanted financial independence, not because my husband was not earning well. There's like that, I don't think was the thing, but just like it felt like, no, I want to earn and I want a like solid corporate job. There's a lot more I can do on that front. So let me get back to the grind. And I started applying. One of the options I had was consulting. And then there was this role in Amazon that I got. It was not, I had like at that point, 12 years of work experience behind me.
Right.
In boardrooms with like billionaires, people who had, those were like the owners of the biggest companies in India, Kumar Mangalam Birla, Cyrus Mistry, likes of those who had presented to and been in boardrooms with. And I was offered senior financial analyst role in Amazon. That's like literally almost kind of a starting point of someone's career.
Right.
And I had to choose between...
Not where you would be with that much experience, where you had been. Yes.
No, not at all. And then I thought about what Eric Schmidt had once told Sheryl Sandberg. When you're given a seat in a rocket ship, don't ask which seat.
That's true. I think it's hard to remember that. That's the best way I've heard that put. Because so often we don't take opportunities that are given to us because they don't look like the opportunity we feel like we should have been presented. You strap into that rocket ship, right?
I did.
Okay.
And that was the thing, right, Andrew? I want to kind of focus a little bit there. Whether it turns out to be a rocket ship or not is what I had to make of it
Mm-hmm.
also. There I was. I could go back to what I had done for a long time, strategy, consulting, or I could pick a new country, a new role, a new industry, everything new, which I didn't know anything about, and jump right into it. And I chose the latter.
Right.
And that, I think, is one of the decisions that made a huge difference in my life. And here I would also want to say something. The reason it made such a huge difference is not just because it was Amazon or because of my role, because the whole experience taught me a lot about dealing with personal emotions, about
Hmm.
managing ourselves. And that was a big learning there. And that's why I always felt that it was transformational because I could suddenly understand and empathize what people go through when they have to start afresh in their lives.
Yes. Yes. And man, is that difficult. It's, of course, for anybody, right? It's any kind of transitional phase is difficult. Starting over, big transitions, moving to retirement, even for a lot of people. And I've talked to people on this podcast where you've tied your worth into what you did for work. And then when you retire, what worth do I have as a human being anymore? They're so tied into what they are, to that it's who they are. And when you start over in your life, we do so much. Again, trying to manage ourselves, manage our emotions, manage just keep it together while you've got all this other chaos going on, as if doing any kind of new role is not complex enough, but doing a new role where it's kind of a restart, man, is that difficult. Yes, yes, yes. So you learned a lot, but how did you move from business analyst to CFO of a business unit doing $4 billion a year? I mean, that's in a very, very, I might add, short period of time, relatively. How did you do this? What are your tips and tricks? Habits are big for you, I know. The just the mindset alone. I want to delve into all these things, but what do you think brought you to that state?
Like you said, lots of things. I would love to start with mindset because I think that's really the starting point. And then everything else falls in place. The mindset and first 3 months, crazy
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, what am I doing here? Everybody's younger than me. I shouldn't even be here. I was fighting a battle with myself
Of
more than
course,
anything else,
of course.
right?
Yes, yes,
That
yes.
negative spiral, at one point, my husband was like, you will go into depression, stop it. I took a step back and I was like, okay, this is not going to happen. This is not working for me. And I decided, let's scrap everything. The mindset shift has to start from our actions, not from our mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do four things. One, learn from everyone, no matter their designation, no matter their seniority. They knew something which I did not know. And if I wanted to be successful, I have to learn and grow. There is one thing which is very beautifully put, which I used in my life, which is gravity problems. Don't worry about gravity problems. So, what you have done, what has happened, is a gravity problem. You can't do anything about it anymore. If you've lost a loved one, if you come from a place which was not a very successful one, any of those that has already happened is a gravity issue.
Yes.
You can't do anything, so don't worry about it. So that's what I did. Now I'm here. I have to grow. First thing, learn from everyone. Second thing, stop defining my role by my designation. Big one for me. Because if you think about it, despite my designation as senior finance analyst, you know what I was doing? I was the head of finance for 3 countries for almost half of Amazon's business in those 3 countries.
Yeah.
It was big. Just because the designation was not big enough didn't mean my role was not. And that's the pivot I made in my mind and in my actions. When I introduced myself to people, I would tell them what I do, not my designation. Then I started thinking about the business. I started thinking about what I need to drive. What should my priorities be? If I was the CFO of that unit, what would I want to do? How do I think about profitability? How do I think about growth? And that's why I said that the mindset shift has to happen in your actions.
Yes.
I started meeting with people, with senior leaders, with everybody who would give me their 30 minutes of time and learn from them, understand from them what their priorities are, and how my role will help the organizational priorities. That will be my second big shift. Stop defining your role by your designation. The third big mindset shift that I did was whenever I would go down the spiral of what am I doing? My peers are VPs and whatnots in their companies, and look at me, where am I? I would just stop myself and say, my trajectory is not like theirs. They haven't moved countries, they haven't lived in places, they haven't visited the world, they haven't done a lot of those things. I chose to not be stagnant in just one company and just one industry. This is the price I pay. I'm willing to pay it.
Yes. And that's also a gravity problem, by the way. It's like, I can't do anything about the fact that I made those choices. These are the ways that it's going to be. It's just a thing.
Exactly. So the third thing for me was stop these comparisons because they're not supporting you. They're not helping you. And own it, like you said, acknowledge it. That those are choices that you made. And I decided to be happy with those that I made because would I be better off by just growing from GM to AVP to VP in the company I was, or live the experience that I had?
Right.
And any day I would choose those. So that was my third thing. Whenever I was falling in that spiral, I would remind myself of those. And fourth, which a lot of us do, but now I would say do more practically, is start thinking about your life in longer term.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you want it to be headed to? And what do you do today to at least move it in that direction? As we all know, the plan, you may want to be 5 years from now, XYZ, a CXO of an XYZ company. It may not happen that. You may actually get a much better deal, or you may go at a completely different path, but at least keep moving towards what that goal looks like. And you will most likely land up somewhere where you're happy being.
Yes. Yes.
So those were the four. And the reason these were mindset shifts is because you have to get your mind off thinking I am not good enough to what more can I do to be where I would like to be and live the choices that I have made successfully.
Yes. Yes. And just evaluating, asking those questions. I mean, here's the thing, and I talk about this ad nauseum on the podcast. I'm sure my listeners are tired of hearing it, but there is this concept of doing the higher level thinking that we don't do. Like, what can I do today that will move me toward my plan of where I want to be in 5 years? Because we're just worried about the here and now. We're looking around ourselves going, well, I've got to pay the mortgage. I've got to put the food on the table. I got to get my hair done and go over here and change the oil in the car and all that stuff. And it's like, yes, okay, all of that stuff needs to happen somehow. But if you're stuck in the weeds the entire time and you're not thinking about, and then you're just obsessing over your current circumstances, like I never have any time. You go, okay, well, what can you do to start to streamline your life so that these things won't be an issue for you in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Doing that kind of thinking puts you on such a different plane. And it also makes each individual thing that you're dealing with a little bit less of a pain in the neck. The eye on the prize, man. I'm going out there. I'm heading forward, right? That's the name of the game. And we don't do those things. But what you've just described would be valuable for anybody who's facing almost any kind of life issue, shifting their mindset toward growth instead of that fixed mindset that we can all fall victim to. I mean, there's obviously some habits that come into play when trying to do this. Mindset's great, but it also has to be a habit. It has to be something that comes back to you time and time again, and that becomes somewhat natural, somewhat ingrained. How have you built those habits that continue to push you towards success? How can we all build those habits? Is it just implementing James Clear's Atomic Habits, or is it? I mean, can I just read the book and be done with it, or is there something more to it?
So I think there's more to it. And
Really?
I would like to just repeat one thing that I heard today morning. Don't take notes, take action.
Ah, yes.
This is much before I read Atomic Habits. So I can share with you ones that I have implemented, and they come from different buckets. Probably some of them are already what James Clear has talked about. One that Jerry Seinfeld has talked about, definitely. And I'll share with you guys a few more, which I've taken from different books and which I've developed for myself as well. Before we get into it, I think one thing I would like to say is the habits that you need sometimes also vary by the situation you are in.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So when I started and when I was in that phase, I did something called morning pages because I
Hmm.
needed to get the toxicity out of my system.
I now
So
tell people a little bit about morning pages
yes,
because this is something that's gone around a lot.
I would love to share. And there is no just one way to do it. So I'll also share with you two different ways that I did it, depending on time and my situation. So morning pages is about getting up in the morning and writing at least a page full or writing for at least 5 minutes or any of those combinations, everything that comes in your mind. So, when you start out with something like this, your mind will actually go like, oh, I don't know what to write. This is a blank page I need to fill. Write it down. Whatever is going on in your mind, write it down. You have to get into the habit of getting whatever is going on, any thought, recognizing and writing it. If writing is not something that you're okay with, get your phone and do the audio recording. Start and just speak everything and anything comes to your mind. Sometimes you'll go blank, look around, look at the tree, look at the lamp, look at your table. Whatever comes for you, just keep saying it. When you stick with this for 5 to 7 days, you'll realize the things that you're holding inside of you, all those negative thoughts, start coming to the fore.
Yep.
And as you start pouring those out, you will realize often a lot of it is pointless. A lot of it is senseless. Are you that dumb? No. Are you not a good person? No. You're good. Everything's fine. You're enough. The problem is just the circumstances are making you feel like that.
Right.
That's a very, very powerful way to get that toxicity out of your system, which I would say is the starting point of whether you want to do a mindset shift, you want to take the first step, any of that.
Yes, and you've got
First,
to get it out, get it on the page, and also just acknowledge it that it's there. Yes.
right? And if you don't have either of these two, find a friend who'll be willing to listen to you and just ask them to shut up and you just speak for 5 minutes. Okay. So that is the first thing. And I did that for almost 6 to 7 months till I felt okay. And I was like, I'm comfortable now sharing what I was going on in my mind. And therefore, I said that all habits don't have to be relevant at all times. But if you're in that space, definitely do this.
Right.
Habits which I have continued from that time to today, and I think I will continue because they've almost become a part of who I am now, is I would say I can think of 4, 5 right now. The first one, I make sure that every start of every week and start of every day, I visit my things to do. And those things to do are not just take things to dry cleaning, take my kid to piano. No, it's not just that. It's like long-term projects that I want to get done, a part of which I want to get done this week. And then most important tasks for any day. We all have a running to-do, many of us have a running to-do list of things, but always highlight what's critical to get done today, what's critical to get done this week. The way I also do this is I make sure every week I have 2 tasks which are focused on my long-term projects or my long-term goals or where I want to be. And everything else could be short-term, of which there are some which are critical. So for instance, if I have a leadership meeting on Thursday, I'll make sure between Monday, Tuesday, I'll prepare for it, not Wednesday, because Wednesday is my buffer, my hedge. So when you plan, those tasks and things, you have to be very mindful of exactly when. Put it in your calendar. Identify the blockers you might get. What more could come up? Provide your hedges. All of that is about planning well. And planning goes a really long way.
Yes, it does.
Spend that time. Take those 30 minutes, 15 minutes. Eventually, you'll be able to do it in 10 minutes. I can tell you by experience. But take that time. It's needed.
It's
The
great when it
second,
works. But I have to say for a second, because the best laid plans, what is it? The path to something is laid with the best laid plans. You can plan a lot, and then the crap starts to fly, and things change, and suddenly all those plans go out the window, and you've got to reformulate. This is the 3-act structure, right? The formation of a plan, the destruction of that plan, the formation of a new plan, and how you go through. This is Odysseus. This is Shakespeare. It's all that stuff. But to have done those plans and to put yourself in a place where things are, where you've done the difficult thinking, where you don't have to start from scratch when something random comes up, and you go, here's the plan. Here's how we're going to deal with this. Here's what I've done the thinking for this already. I know where we're going. I know what my responses might be. I have a hedge built in. I have all these things there to help me. Will always pay dividends later, even if it doesn't immediately happen.
Absolutely, Andrew. And the one more thing that it helps, and that's why I insist on most important tasks, is when you know that this is one thing I have to get done, you get the ability to say no to everything that seems on fire, but it's not aligned to your objectives.
Yes. And the other thing I personally struggle with, and I'm sure some of the listeners struggle with, is the fact that if I look at my tasks and I keep a probably way over OCD, every single thing is tracked, David Allen getting things done, task list, next action, all this stuff. But if you actually pulled back, and if I was really honest in the scheme of my life and the world at large, nothing I have to do is important. I got to interview Shruti. We're going to have a good time. But as far as like maximizing it, well, it really does need to be, there needs to be some judgment on, well, what's most important right now? Because in the grand scheme of things, it might not be important that I don't know, make an extra $100,000 this year. And you go, it's just money, all that stuff. Sure. Fine. But if that's the current most important, it's the current most important, right now. And not necessarily to God and whatever higher power in the universe is going to care about that. So yes, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue.
No, not at all. So most important task for that day, but then that's why the 2 tasks in the long term too.
Yeah.
Like for me, it sometimes is just training on something which I've been pushing for a long time, but I need to get it done. Reading a particular book, which I really want to get done. Recording some of my videos. Like sometimes it's just those things. I have to get it done. The second thing, which I was telling about the Jerry Seinfeld effect, it is the only thing you should focus on is you don't break the chain. Yep. And I think Atomic Habits does talk about it a little bit as well. And I heard it first in an interview of Jerry Seinfeld. So that's where I would always quote it from. So he says, and it's really beautiful and it works. And you could do it in an Excel because that's where I do it. So you get like a big planner, you get a white chart, and this holds true only for 1 or 2 things you absolutely have to do every single day. Every single day. Reserve it only for those things. Maybe working out for 20 minutes. Maybe if you're a writer, if you are somebody who wants to get trained on something. So like whatever that may be, whatever that most important thing is, which you have to get every single day done, yeah. Write it down. And every day you do it, put a tick mark. After a week, you'll have these 7 tick marks with a red pen he suggests. So it's like a red chain that forms. That's how the chain grows. And then mentally something happens when we look at that chain. We don't want to break it. The days where I don't feel like doing it, I look at it and I'll say, oh my God, I'll be breaking the chain. No, let me do it for 15 minutes, but let me still go and do it.
Yes. And it's huge look, consistency won't solve every problem. Right. Yep. There's a lot of things that it doesn't help with. And I'm sure you have some thoughts on that I'd love to talk about. But when for listeners who don't know, and just to reiterate, Jerry Seinfeld writes a joke every single day, has for forever, basically, since he was like 12 years old. I don't know. Forever. Since he was certainly when he started in comedy. Every single day he has written a joke. Now, at this point, it's been 35 years of every single day. And that's what he has to do to be successful as a comedian. At least that's what he feels. Are they all great? No, for sure not. But every day he sat down and wrote one. I liken it to what a writer said to me once, which was, I can't compel an A+ inspiration every time I sit down at the keyboard, but I can keep the motor warm so that when one comes along, I'm ready to go. Because I can kind of compel a B. I'm now trained well enough to put out something that's B level. And you know what? B minus, that'll suffice for most of what we need to do on a day-to-day basis. But if you keep your joints nimble and you're focusing on that, and it's the practice alone that can help, you're ready when a good one comes along, and you might actually get one. You will never have a chance for consistent greatness if you don't continue to have that go, whatever it is, again, in working out or any of those other things. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so don't break the chain. Got that. What else?
Third one I would say is, and that's part of mindset, but it's also action. And it's very closely linked to both of these that we talked about, and which comes from Elizabeth Gilbert. She was the author for Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
And one day she had this major writer's block. She was like, I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write. Probably whatever I'm writing is complete horseshit. So should I even write it? And then she said, okay, I committed to the universe that I will write my book. I never committed to the universe that I will write a great book. And so I will only follow my commitment, which was to write. And she wrote, and we all know the rest is history.
Right.
And I think that's the mindset shift and an action shift I would love for you all to consider. Ask yourself a question. What is stopping you from doing whatever it is? Is it the fear of how will I be looked at and judged? Is it that I will fail and fail famously? Or what is it? Or is it just that, oh, I'm not even worthy of doing this? Whatever that may be, answer for yourself. And if it is any of these three, answer yourself back, is that true? So this is a mindset that I put into action by questioning myself every time I procrastinate anything. What is leading me to not do it? Is it I just have too much? Then I need to clear out the things that don't matter. Is it because I'm afraid of failing at it spectacularly? Then I have to just close my eyes and go ahead and do it. Or is it because I'm not clear what needs to be done, which often happens in our lives, professional and personal? So then just sit down, get clarity, speak to people, brainstorm, do whatever it takes to get clarity, get started, take the first step. And the reason I'm saying this is a habit, because this is not like one and done. It's not like you will just once encounter this situation and it'll never happen again. No, it happens time and again on different things. On different things, you'll procrastinate. So make this into a habit of just whenever you see yourself doing it, ask yourself the question. The fourth thing that I would say is, again, very much related to kind of a habit. But again, it's not something that you do every day, but you get into a habit of doing it whenever needed. Saying no to your family, to your colleagues, to whoever is needed. Ask yourself and ask them three simple questions. I call it the MINT technique. This I can totally claim I have come up with the name. The MINT is simple. Why me? Why now? Why this? Why should I do it? Why does it need to get done now? Why can't it get done tomorrow, like day after or next week, or why at all? And the third thing is, why does this have to happen? Why at all is this critical? Lots of times people will come up with you and ask you, for a favor, and you'll be like, yeah, sure. And you'll feel bad if you're not able to, but nobody questions back and says, okay, why do we need to do this? What's the objective? What's the bigger thing we're trying to solve from it? Often we don't ask those questions.
Yep.
So do that. Apply that MINT in situations so you're able to draw boundaries and you're able to say no. The fifth that I would say is, again, a habit and more of a lifestyle thing. every week, what do you do that brings you joy? Do that.
Yes. 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 And I mean, that is something that we should think about much more often and build that in, because when that's missing, when you don't have anything every week that brings you joy and you're sitting there going, nothing. And you're just asking yourself that question. Maybe it's time to make a little bit of a shift. I mean, I've talked to career coaches and counselors and all kinds of people on this podcast, and people have said, look, if there's absolutely nothing that engages you about your job at all, maybe you're in the wrong role. Not necessarily that you're wrong, because it's not a problem with you. It's not right for you. That role is not right for you. And maybe we need to find something else, right? So you get into these things, but something, hopefully something, brings you joy, and let's try and maximize that and bring more of that. Yes, 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 absolutely.
So each of these things that I talked about, Andrew, and everybody who's listening, these are all actually helping you to maximize what you derive out of your own life and out of your own time and energy. Please don't forget, it's not just about time. It's also about energy, how you're managing your energy. If everything that you're doing in a day is just draining your energy, what is the source that's refueling you? We all know a car cannot run empty tank. So how are you refueling yourself? That's what you do when you say no, when you think about the longer term things that bring you joy and that bring you hope.
Yeah.
And I would like to say this little something. There was a research that was done, and people's excitement and happiness levels were gauged. One, when they were planning a vacation, and two, when they were on the vacation. And what you will realize is they were way more happy when they are planning the vacation, because the reward circuitry in our minds, it's already activated, because I can think of a reward, something nice that's going to happen, and I'm already excited.
Right.
That's why it's important to work on those two tasks which bring you the long-term objective and joy, because you're already excited. That's already energy in it. Things you want to achieve and you're working towards them instead of fighting the everyday fires only. Right? So
I just had the idea of planning a bunch of vacations and never taking them. It would save me so much money. This is what I should do. Thank you. You've given me, this is mind blowing. I don't need to go to Iceland. I'll just plan to go to Iceland. Yes. Okay.
Your mind is an intelligent piece of work, Andrew. So if you do this enough number of times, it will also know that you never go on vacation, so it won't look forward to
Oh, well, I guess I have to go now and then. Shruti, thank you so much. I have so many other questions, but we're starting to run short on time. There's a couple of things I like to ask everybody. And one of them is, what do you think is the biggest fallacy that everybody buys into, but that turns out to be, at the end of the day, just total BS? That's just way overrated.
I would say confidence is kind of overrated. The overrated part of confidence is thinking that either you are confident or you're not confident is. I would say that confidence is not like a button. It's not like, yes, I have confidence, so I'll always have confidence for everything. The overrated part in it is you have to every time fight. You have to every time take action and just keep at it. And after a point, it stops being important. Because when your focus is on action, you stop thinking whether I'm confident about it or not.
Right. But taking the action, take that next step, just move forward. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So on the other side of it, what is the most underrated concept? What are people overlooking? What are we missing? What do we need more of?
Energy management. We need more of that. Start noticing how your energy levels are, doing what kind of work, being with what kind of people. It's a lot more about how you're managing your energy instead of just managing your time. So if there are things that you actually do enjoy, if that energizes you, even if it is the healthy argument in a family about my beliefs versus your beliefs, healthy argument, do those. Doesn't have to be a fight. It can just be, let's listen in. Let's get more perspective. Like anything that energizes you, do that.
Mm-hmm.
People often overlook, don't think about what are the activities that energize me. When I plan my calendar, how do I balance my days such that I'm doing energy draining and energy giving activities? We just keep meeting after meeting without realizing that by the later half of it, we won't have the energy for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And man, is that important with any kind of balance, I suppose, whether it's work-life balance or otherwise, managing your energy and what it's going to be like. And well, hey, I've got something that I have to do that I know is going to drain my energy. So I need to build in something that will build it back up. And to try and again manage just to have that clarity of thought, desire, and understanding of yourself of what it is that does build up your energy and what saps it. And we've all had those days where we haven't paid attention to those things, and halfway through the day you go, I can't take one more minute of this. I'm gonna collapse. I'm not. Yesterday was like that for me, in fact, but that was a whole nother issue. Shruti, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, folks. If you want to know more about Shruti, check out her website, connect with her on Instagram and LinkedIn, and consider signing up for her next masterclass, Maximize Work and Life. Links to everything are in the show notes as always. And until next time, we don't have a problem. We have an opportunity.